We'll call to order the City of Douglasville's City Council Legislative Work Session for today, which is Thursday, September the 30th, 2021. Our invocation will be done by Emily Hardaway, our Community Outreach Coordinator for the City of Douglasville. After that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by the Mayor Pro Tem, City Council Member Terry Miller. Please stand for the invocation.
Let's pray. Lord, thank you so much for this day that you have given us today. Thank you for the opportunity to come together and fellowship with each other and conduct city business. I pray that you please be with our elected officials as they discuss city business, and please give them wisdom. I also ask that for the Hudson family who's here tonight, Lord, that you continue to be a sense of peace and comfort for them as they navigate this new season of life. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem and Miss Emily. We appreciate the invocation as well. I will go over the announcements and presentations, and we'll do the presentation first before we do the announcements. I have a presentation for a proclamation to Scot Hudson's family to honor October 2nd, 2021 as Scot Hudson Day in the City of Douglasville to commemorate Mr. Hudson's contributions and influence and influential service to the community, and to issue a key to the city posthumously to him in his honor, as well as there is a park bench that we have in the City of Douglasville at O'Neill Plaza that will have a marker for Mr. Hudson. So I will read the proclamation, and then we have a letter, and we'll ask his beautiful family to come up, his daughter, his wife, and friends, and whomever else to come forward to receive the proclamation and the key. The proclamation says, October 2nd, proclaimed as Scot Hudson Day, whereas Scot Hudson entered into eternal rest on Monday, May 3rd, 2021, and was a great contributor and asset to the Douglasville community for decades. Whereas Scot was born October 2nd, 1960 in Douglas County, graduating from Douglas County High School, go Tigers, in 1978, and started working at Hudson's Hickory House with his father. And whereas Scot had many hobbies and interests such as riding his motorcycle, vacationing in his favorite spot, Aruba, or watching the Georgia Bulldogs or Atlanta Braves. And whereas Scot was a crucial part of the community, always willing to help others and devoted to serving in any way, including as a member of the Douglasville Masonic Lodge, FAM number 289, and as a Yarborough Shriner. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. And whereas Scott also was a devoted family man dedicated to his father, Buford, and devoted loving daughter, beloved daughter, Alana, along with other family members and friends, whereas Scot is an irreplaceable asset to our community and will be deeply missed. Now, therefore, I, Rochelle Robinson, Mayor of the City of Douglasville, and on behalf of the Douglasville City Council and citizens of the city, do hereby proclaim October 2nd, 2021 as Scot Hudson Day in the City of Douglasville, and encourage all citizens, city government officials, and city employees to do everything possible to ensure that this great community leader is recognized and celebrated for his incredible life that he lived. So proclaimed this 30th day of September 2021, and it will be reoccurring every October 2nd in the City of Douglasville. Let's please give his memory a hand for the proclamation for the family. I also have a letter, and the letter reads as follows, and then we'll ask the family to come forward and representative to come and speak if you'd like to have anything to say. It says, Dear Hudson family, as a local downtown business owner, Scot Hudson was such a crucial part of the community and was always willing to help others. His loss has been deeply felt among all of us. We are so glad that we can proclaim his birthday October 2nd as Scot Hudson Day. We are happy to know that his spirit of generosity and community service will continue to live on through his beloved daughter, Elena, as she starts a new tradition to help those in need. Working with Scott to make our city the best it can be is an honor that we will always cherish in his honor and his spirit. We hope that you, his family, along with all those that knew him, continue to keep his spirit of giving back to his community alive, especially as we enter the holidays. Thank you for letting us be a part of honoring Mr. Scot Hudson. It is signed by myself and all the city council members, and we understand that Christmas was his favorite holiday. So we'll ask the family member, whomever the representative is, or whomever wants to speak, if you please come forward and give your name and address for the record. And then you can talk to us, and we'll take a picture and present the proclamation, the letter, and the key to you. Okay. Let's receive Elena as she comes forward.
Elena Hudson, 9081 Prd Drive. I just want to say thank you so much for doing this for my dad. And I just really hope that he knew how loved and appreciated he was, and it means the world that you are willing to help recognize him. So thank you so much.
Welcome. We do have a key to the city. It says to honor the legacy of Mr. Scot Hudson and his contributions of love to the community in the city of Douglasville, by myself. And you're a star. You know, you made the newspaper today. It has you in here, and everyone, we have bins in the city that folks could give toys to in your dad's honor, and I know you're going to have a toy drive at Hudson's Hickory House. Any council members want to say anything before we come around? I know we all had great memories and full tummies. Your dad filled our hearts and our souls as he helped to cook. Anyone? Councilmember Miller.
Elena, my dear, your dad loved you so much, and I know that you are honoring his legacy better than anyone could have imagined. You have been so strong through all this, and I think that we are all just amazed by you and very proud of you. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, if we can please come around as we're coming, if you all don't mind giving the family a hand for taking time to come out today and allowing us to honor him. Thank you so much for allowing us to do that. We definitely need to give honor where honor is due in our community and for our leaders. I'll go over the protocol for the meeting, and then we'll get into the meat of the meeting this evening with the agenda that is printed either outside or on the overhead. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Douglasville's legislative work session. My name is Rochelle Robinson. I'm mayor of the City of Douglasville. This is a work session where agenda items are presented for discussion only, and no official action will be taken tonight. Official action will be taken on these items discussed this evening on Monday at 6 p.m. If the business you are here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda item comments from citizens and delegates section for you to discuss your business. There are just a few protocol issues I'd like to go over with before we start the meeting. I ask that you would please keep your comments on a professional level dealing with the facts that are important for this governing body to make our decisions. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. We'll ask that you would not do that, and if you deviate from that requirement, a second deviation will prevent you from continuing to talk. We'll turn your microphone off, but we know we won't have to do all of that. Only one person speaking at a time, please. Please do not applaud or react to speakers, speak to the audience, cheer, or carry on conversations while you're at the microphone or be disruptive. We'll remind you that we're only required to accept public comments during the required public hearings for zoning matters. And if you have a cell phone or any electronic device, we'll ask that you'll please put those in silent mode so they won't be disruptive during the meeting. Now, this is how the work session will go. Agenda items will be handled as the following. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item, then that person or applicant will make his or her presentation. Myself and council members will possibly ask clarifying questions to help us make our decisions for next Monday. After that, the committee chairperson will ask for comments or statements from the audience. There is a maximum of 20 minutes for those in favor of the item and 20 minutes for those in opposition, and each person has 5 minutes to speak. If you would like to speak, we ask that you would please fill out a speaker sign-in card. The cards are outside on the chair or the desk, I apologize. And when you fill that out, put your name and address and give it to our city clerk, Ms. Vicki Acker, to my right. Do we have anyone sign up to speak virtually? Okay. No? Okay. Thank you so much. After that, each person has one opportunity to speak. This is not a question and answer format or debate. We're just here to hear the information, deliberate, and make our decision on Monday. Our policy is for any printed material that you would please give that to our city clerk. She will make copies and distribute to the council members. That's a whole lot of talking, and hopefully everyone understands the procedure and how we're going to go through the meeting this evening. Now we will start with the agenda, and we'll go to item number 5, which is Economic Development Committee. That's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under the Economic Development Committee at this time.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll move on then to Finance Committee. The Vice Chair is Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
We have 3 items tonight. Item A, adopt an ordinance to amend the City of Douglasville's fiscal year 2021-2022 Splost fund budget. And Mr. Byrd will come up and present on that.
Good evening again, Madam Mayor and Council. Good to see you all this evening.
Good to see you.
As presented earlier in our 5 o'clock meeting, I am presenting our budget amendment number 11 for the 2016 Splost Fund. We are essentially adjusting the revenues upward by $1.9 million. That is based on updated sales tax projections that we have reviewed and agreed that we can safely amend these revenues to increase the sales tax proceeds collections for the Splost Fund. With that, we then allocate that increase across the different categories that were voted on back in 2016 by the voters. And those categories of Splost are public safety, facilities, transportation, and parks and recreation. And each one carries a weight in the Splost. For example, public safeties and parks carries 20% of the Splost, 45% is transportation, and then 15% is for facility improvements. So that's why you will see under the adjustments for expenditures, we're increasing the contingency across those categories and then allocating them out to specific projects. So for public safety, it's a $389,000 net change that we will allocate to public safety's contingency. For facilities, we have a $292,000 net change, which is going to go towards the contingency for facilities. And then for transportation, because it does carry a larger amount of the Splost, it's going to have an $877,000 net change, which is going into its contingency. And then lastly, the last category is parks and recreation. It will have a $447,000 net change, and that is primarily to do a few things to increase, of course, based on those projections, but also we had some projects that can be closed out that either came under budget or can be adjusted out as the project now is complete. For example, the West Pines Bunkers renovation that was completed. And that being said, what we'd like to do is keep $1 million in the town green that will be funded through Splost as part of this to help reduce the bond issue and then carry that project along as well. Again, the adjustment is to revenues, an increase of $1.9 million, and that will conclude the budget amendment number 11 for Splost. Is there any questions that I'd be more than happy to answer?
Anybody have something that wasn't asked in the 5 o'clock? Or, yes, Madam Mayor?
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you, Mr. Byrd, for the update. You did that, it seems like without breathing, you just went straight through, Shane. But the number 2 for the increase under Parks and Recreation, you talked about the amphitheater and the town green, but not Willing Workers Park, if you can just mention that.
Yes, ma'am. So we are increasing Willing Workers Park by $235,000. That's just a result of some change orders we've had. Now, just to note, and some of the funds related to these change orders may not ultimately be used. It's essentially a safety measure in terms of some of the work being done there. Marcus Thompson could speak to that if he's available, related to those change orders and some of the work that they've discovered that may be required to help get that project finished. I think there was a burn pit and refuse pit that was discovered on the premise, and there's also been some issues related to water drainage and keeping the soil stabilized. So if those results of the soil stabilization do not work effectively, then of course these change orders would come into effect and we would have to utilize those monies.
Those resources.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
and then the bunkers at West Pines, they were bid out and they were under budget, or we have resources left over and we transferred those over, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. The
Okay.
project came in under budget, so we're essentially taking that difference and moving it into contingency, which is then being allocated to these other Splost projects in Parks and Recreation.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Shane. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions or comments? No? Anybody? All right. I spoke with the chairman, and he said it was okay to suggest putting item A on the consent agenda for Monday, if that's okay with everybody. All right,
Looks
good.
like heads are nodding. Yes, sir.
And item B, authorize the mayor to sign an agreement. Thank you, Mr. Byrd, I appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you, I'm sorry. Authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Georgia Power Company for Georgia Power Company's relocation and adjustment of its facilities along Club Drive between Church Street and West Spring Street to accommodate the city's construction project. And Mr. Thompson.
All right, good evening. Marcus
Good
Thompson,
evening.
City Engineer, 6701 Church Street. All right, so the item before you tonight is basically for aesthetic purposes only to support the town green development. It moves power from the above ground poles to underground power lines, consistent with previous and current utility work ongoing along Church Street. Are there any additional questions?
Anybody? Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, you got something?
Yeah, this, I'll just clarify, this is the one we have already had started, correct?
Well, this is for Club Drive. So Georgia Power, they have started work along Church Street from Rose Avenue to West Courthouse Square, but we do have above ground poles along Club Drive that needs to be removed as well.
Okay, so, oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
So this is related to the amphitheater, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other? Yes, Madam Mayor.
I do have another question. I see the payment is $356,207.89. And so this is for underground utilities for Club Drive, and all of this is going to the town green, so everything
Yes,
will be
this is
underground.
budgeted for.
Okay.
with the
And
town
is this the schedule, city manager? Didn't we do like I don't know if we allocated a certain amount, or they're giving us installments, or how is that working? I'm trying to remember.
Is this part of the payment plan that we have with Georgia Power again? This is not, this is separate.
Okay, so this is a separate issue
Yes,
from
ma'am.
that installment, okay. I'm just trying to get all these underground utilities as much as we can. So, all right, thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, did you have something else? I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
thanks.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Mr. Thompson? All right, thank you, Mr. Thompson. And I also spoke with the chairman Adams about this item, and he said it was okay to place on the consent agenda if that was all right with everybody else.
Yes, sir.
All right. And item C, authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Ra-Lin and Associates, Inc. for the RFP 2021-007 Town Green Amphitheater construction. Mr. Thompson?
All right, so we have a little good news. The RFP process has ended, so we're one step closer to breaking ground. We received 3 proposals, one from Albion, second from Carol Daniel, and the third from Ra-Lin. But after further consideration from our staff and our consultants, we're looking to move forward with Ra-Lin for the project as the general contractor, and wanted to provide that recommendation to you guys for your approval. We do have representatives from our program manager, CPS, here, along with Ra-Lin for any additional questions or concerns you guys may have.
Well, I'd like Mr. Craig just to come up, if he doesn't mind, and speak to what he said to me earlier about the process and how solid these bids were as far as cost adjustments later on down the line.
Good evening, Shawn Craig, 104 Warrenton Drive, Douglasville. We vetted the budget between finance and CPS and city management for about 6 months. Developed, put in every contingency we could think about, and set the program budget for several categories, for construction, utility relocation, unforeseen conditions. There's an allowance for that. We built those into the bid form as best we could. There's a line item in the proposal request for an allowance for unforeseen conditions. The city is automatically protected within the, and I think you've got it in your packet. There's a summary with the bid results. Within those bid results, there is a contingency for unforeseen conditions. So minor adjustments to the site, to the scope of work, can be handled internally. We discussed with Vice Chair this afternoon that any scope changes would be brought to the City Council. But between finance and Marcus and myself, we have vetted the budget. There is a contingency for the world we live in, as far as the supply chain, material allowances, availabilities, and any sort of lead time issues that are involved in our current market. The numbers that were received should automatically reflect the current supply chain as it was priced out during the post-COVID situation. So those items have been addressed as best we can. We will work with the contractor, should you choose to proceed, to develop a program of purchasing so that we don't have any issues in that regard. So,
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Any questions for either one of these gentlemen? Madam Mayor?
I don't have a question, just a comment. I just wanted to commend staff for really having a transparent procedure with the RFPs. I know that you redact those names and then you do an adjustment or a comparison, but I really am impressed with the staff that is a cross-section of, engineering, police department, town, the Welcome Center, Parks and Recreation, City Manager's Office, so community development. So you all have gone all across, the different parts of the city to choose individuals, and then we can see the scorecards for every company, the 3 companies, and the bids. And we just happened that the one who had the highest number had the lowest cost, so that's good. Not by very much, but we appreciate the transparency. Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
So I see that the construction start date is October 21, so do we have a specific date yet?
no, sir. Not until we can issue a notice to proceed and develop a working schedule with the contractor.
Okay, that wasn't part of the RFP.
Well, there was a schedule requested in the RFP as part of their work plan, and that all 3 respondents indicated starting in October in some fashion.
Okay. But at least we can tell people that they can expect to see ground being moved around within the next month. Is that, so, we get a lot of
You got
questions
head
about that.
nodding over there.
There's Ra-Lin.
There will be bulldozers and backhoes out there on, sometime before before October 31st.
Yeah, we got a lot of dirt to move around, so.
It'll become a hard hat area, hopefully.
Well, it will be a fenced-off area as well.
Yeah.
He said fenced off.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Questions or comments? All right, we will leave this right where it is. We will not place this on the consent agenda for Monday. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, that's all I had tonight under finance.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you, Mr. Thompson and Mr. Craig. We appreciate the report. We'll move on then to the next item, number 7, which is Housing and Community Affairs Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShawn Burdanley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under housing tonight.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You're the vice chair for the next committee, Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee, as Councilman Davis is in with the chamber in D.C., Washington, D.C.
Yes, ma'am. Tonight, we have no business under legislative and intergovernmental either. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Personnel and Organization Committee, Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
We're going to use up a little bit of the alphabet under this
I know it.
agenda item. Item A is adopt an ordinance to amend the City of Douglasville's fiscal year 2021-2022 Splost fund budget. And Ms. Austin Bing or Ms. Callan? Oh, I'm sorry. Hello. All right.
Ms. Austin B.
Item A, adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign contracts with Humana, Inc., Anthem Life Insurance Company, the Lincoln National Life Insurance Company, and Total Administrative Services Corporation for city-sponsored employee insurance benefits for calendar year 2022, and stating the anticipated city contribution for each employee benefit. Ms. Austin Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. T.L. Austin Bean, 6695 Church Street, Human Resources. Good evening again, Madam Mayor and Council. Item A before you is our insurance contracts for health benefits for 2022. If you recall, last month or earlier this month, we came to you to discuss what our recommendations are for our employee health benefits. And these are the actual contracts for mayor's signature, and also the resolution that states the plan design as well as the city costs. So this item, if you have any questions, I'll take them, but this is the final phase of putting into implementation for 2022.
Thank you, Ms. Austin Bing. Any questions or comments from anybody? Since several of our council members aren't here and they might have questions as far as coverage, I'll go ahead and leave this item on the agenda for Monday. And if we don't have any other questions, I'll move on to item B. Thank you, Ms. Austin Bing. Adopt a resolution to make a 5% cost of living adjustment to the current pay scale and a 5% cost of living adjustment to each employee and new hires that have satisfactorily completed their probationary period. Ms. Austin Bing.
Yes, sir. This item B before you, as we advised in our committee meetings, is our recommendation as it relates to our challenges that we're having with recruitment and retention. This recommendation is to provide a 5% cost of living adjustment and to also adjust our currently adopted pay schedule for all of our city positions and minimum, mid, and maximum pay ranges. If you have any additional questions on this item, I'll be happy to take.
And as has been discussed, I mean, we have the money in the budget to handle this.
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I apologize. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. And I'm sure Ms. Austin Bean will give that description with item number C to talk to us about, or the city manager for the resources that we had with the employees that we didn't have for the city that carried over those salaries, and so we're able to do items B and C without adjusting our balance for the budget.
Yes.
I mean, our monies. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. In your last fiscal year, 2020, due to vacancies, you have approximately $1.5 million to cover the cost of any personnel issues or retention matters that you have to carry into this budget. The total cost of creating these programs that you'll have before you is a little less than $600,000. So that will provide you funds to cover the cost of these incentives, as well as fill any vacancies that we're able to fill during the time that we're having labor shortages and challenges.
Thank you so much. That was clumsily said for me, but you were very articulate in explaining it.
Yes, ma'am.
And the other thing with the 5% cost of living adjustment, we are doing a classification study. So we're anticipating that it will come in double digits, but we're just doing incremental adjustments now, so that whenever the classification study comes in and across the board in the state and how all of that's happening, we're probably thinking it's going to be about 10%, but just doing now an incremental at 5%, then the 10% won't be such a hit.
Yes, ma'am.
At that time. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam
Chair.
Mayor. Anybody else? No? Okay, and when did you say the pay study would be done? Do you know?
We anticipating getting results in October.
October.
Staff is going to analyze those, make some recommendations to you all sometime at the end of the year, early January. We typically implement those in March so that we're prepared for the spring as well as the summer.
Okay. Well, I just want to personally thank Ms. Hampton for her leadership, Ms. Bing, taking care of our employees and doing it efficiently, and so I just appreciate y'all.
Conservative.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am?
I said being conservative.
Yes. So item C. Thank you, Ms. Austin Bing. I guess you're going to stick around for this next one, too. Adopt a resolution to create Sanitation Employee Perfect Attendance Program ending on June the 30th, 2022, that provides a $250 incentive pay per pay period to sanitation employees who have worked 80 scheduled hours during that pay period, and a $150 incentive pay per pay period to other public service department employees who have backfilled sanitation positions. Ms. Austin Bing.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item before you, as previously discussed, addresses our staffing shortages and our recruitment challenges that we're currently having in our public services department, specifically as it relates to attendance and carrying out the services for our sanitation department. This particular incentive will provide for a $250 per pay period incentive for our sanitation employees, as well as an incentive for other public services employees who are asked, or there is a need for them to fill in for these staffing shortages, which is $150. This particular incentive amount is also within our budget. And so we ask that you all consider this as we, to help us just to lessen the blow on our retention challenges that we're having right now.
Any questions or comments? Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Austin Bing, could you tell us how many vacancies we have in the sanitation department?
Combined, we probably have about, I want to say close to 15, if not more. We just looked at this number this morning, and to include all positions, I actually would say it's about 20 positions altogether, inclusive of other vacancies that have not been filled. But in this, in the Public Services Department, the Sanitation Division specifically, probably about 15.
Wow, and altogether we have about 58?
We have 57 vacant positions citywide.
Wow. And then for sanitation, this incentive will help us because Mr. Roberts really wanted to, I know his heart, he wanted to do our fall cleanup. And I'm not going to say someone was the Grinch, but someone said, we can't do the fall cleanup because we don't have enough staff to do it. And so I've gotten a lot of calls and emails, and city manager's been responding to some of the emails as well for the citizens that we're so accustomed to our spring and fall cleanup, but we're unable to do it this time because we don't have the staff and we don't want to have any debris out, by the curb. So hopefully this will give us some, a remedy to try to get some employees in to the sanitation department and help us continue to we have to pick up, our trash. So we appreciate this initiative. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
It's difficult to take away an amenity that, sanitation is part of our service, but that fall and spring cleanup is an added bonus, and when you've been doing it, it's hard to take it away, but I hope the citizens understand the predicament that we're in. Any questions or comments on this particular item?
Yeah.
Yes,
Just
Mr.
a quick
Mayor.
follow-up to the Madam Mayor's question. We have 20 people, we're 20 people short in sanitation. What's our total employment level in sanitation right now?
In sanitation, altogether about 15 vacancies
15?
in
How
the
many
division.
field positions are there?
Oh, field positions, so. We have a total of about 60. 60, okay. Thank you,
So
Mr. Robinson.
that's about 20% of the department is empty. So that's a major impact in any organization.
I think, I think a thing that is probably more impactful, you have about 9,200 customers. So those people work to serve 9,200 customers. So when you're thinking about 20 people serving that many customers, so when the Grinch has to say no Christmas.
I didn't say you were the Grinch.
That's why the Grinch says no Christmas. Because we got to keep the lights on.
I know, City Manager.
But 92, keep that in mind, 9,200 customers served by those few people. And that is the reason why.
That's commercial and residential?
Yes. So when we ask, why is this the most critical, that's the reason why it's the most critical.
And we're trying to get the $250,000 or however much the cost those trucks that are front load, but they're on back order, and it's just Mr. Gray.
350,000, and when you think about, Ms. Austin Bing mentioned, that's a $15 an hour job when they can go work for a private hauler making $25 an hour. Plus overtime.
And just to be clear, those folks that are paying that much more, the customers that they serve are charged for it. That cost goes towards the customers, and so.
And they're struggling as well with employment. So, so one of the things that we're competing with is the fact that an individual that may be interested to coming to work for us, they can go to that private hauler because they have the same vacancies that we do, and they're able to pay bonuses and pay a variety of things. So just across the industry, it's not necessarily, it's a hard to recruit job. It's just where we are. And so when I mentioned, I think that long-term, this is something that we're going to struggle with. We struggled with it in public safety, and we continue. And I think this field is just going to be the next phase of what we have to struggle with, and we're going to have to just educate our citizens on patience and getting ourselves in a groove, in a mix where we can provide those services and we're not tripping over ourselves due to things like absenteeism, that we're able to manage overtime. Overtime is going to be, or I should say turnover. Turnover is going to be with us. It's what we're going to have to deal with, but it will be like any other industry that has to manage overtime. That's just going to be the process that we have to deal with.
Well, both item B and C, I think, commend staff for addressing the issues that we have with employment and the way they're going about it. And it's,
And I'll just correct what I said, Councilman Miller, Mayor Pro Tem, that's just residential.
Oh, is it? Then you change that residential.
Yes.
Residential only. Okay.
Okay. And I did not ask, but I'm going to ask now if item B and C can be placed on a consent agenda. I don't think that we'll have any issues with that on Monday.
It'll be fine.
So both those items be placed on the consent agenda. Item D, adopt an ordinance to revise Chapter 11 of the City of Douglasville's Personnel Policies and Procedures to create a Peace Officers Annuity and Benefit Fund incentive program for peace officers employed by the city. Ms. Hampton and Ms. Austin B.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item before you, discussed in committees, is our efforts to assist with our police officer recruitment and retention efforts here at the city. This benefit is currently being paid for by the peace officer. The city is not currently cost sharing in this incentive. It's about $25 a month per officer, and we are asking that the city takes up this cost share and releases that that deduction from the peace officer, so that we can provide for a better incentive program as it relates to retirement. Should also mention that upon separation from the city, this benefit will terminate for that peace officer. But while they're currently employed, we're asking that the city is able to cover this cost for our peace officers and to help us better attract and retain peace officers at this time. We're having this recruitment challenges as well in our police department. We feel this is one way to combat that.
And Chief Sparks was saying for 5 o'clock that we don't have a lot of our police officers getting into this program, but with us contributing like we're talking about doing, I mean, will we just automatically do it, or they still have to say?
They would have to enroll in the program. It's a nominal fee, but after that one-time enrollment, then the city will pick up those that cost for the employee. And we have about 48 employees right now that are currently participating, and we have about not right at 100 officers, not quite, but more than half are not participating, basically.
Okay. So we'll going forward, we'll pick up the tab. We're not recompensating anybody that's paid into it thus far.
No, sir. It's
okay.
the plan is to move forward.
Okay. Well, I'm hopeful that we'll be 100% on that. I mean, it's a no-brainer as far as that's concerned, seems to me. Any questions or comments from Mayor and Council? And we'll place this item on the consent agenda if that's okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Austin Bing. And then item E, adopt an ordinance amending subsection 11-11-2 of the Personnel Policies and Procedures Ordinance to revise the eligibility for sick leave buyback payments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item before you is a current policy that we already have adopted in our personnel policies and procedures. This amendment would allow for a tiered cap program and to allow for newer employees to be able to participate in the sick leave buyback. The caveat is to ensure that the balances are not reduced by more than 50%. And the reason for that is we want to allow for the incentive, but we also want to allow for the employee to have sick leave balance in the case of any emergency. And I'll take any other questions if you have them.
Any questions or comments? Well, I look at this list of items that we're addressing, trying to reward and improve what we're paying employees and giving them other opportunities and benefits. So that's great. I appreciate y'all's efforts on that. We'll also place this on the consent agenda, if that's okay. Okay, Ms. Austin Bing, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Madam Mayor, that's all I had tonight under personnel and organization.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, HR Director, Ms. Austin Bean. We'll move on to Planning and Development Committee. The Vice Chair is Councilmember Dr. LaShawn Burdell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
I see our Planning and Development Committee are very kind to me tonight. We have 3 items. The first item is item number 21-450. Consider a request for approval of a development plan for Durley Lane Senior for 5.98 acres at Durley Lane, located in Lot 50, District 1, Section 5, Partial 2072 for plans dated August 30th, 2021. Application by P.J. Hornick, Southport Financial Real Estate, LLC.
Good evening. Ryan Anderson, Zoning Administrator, 6701 Church Street. The applicant, South Financial Real Estate, LLC, is seeking development of a non-residential project per City of Douglasville UDO, Section 10.07, for property located on Durley Lane. The proposed development plan currently depicts a 3-story building comprised of brick masonry, fiber cement panels, and fiber cement lap siding. The proposed development will consist of 119 units of new construction in a single building. The applicant plans to develop senior housing. Also, this item is associated with a previous rezoning from GC to PRD, which the applicant successfully sought in May 2021. City staff has reviewed the application and the attachments and has determined that the proposed plans meet development requirements of the UDO. Staff recommends approval of this development plan. The applicant is here.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. And I met with Mr. Anderson yesterday in regards to each one of these items. I'd like to ask the developer to come up, please. Thank you so much for being here. If you will please state your name and address for a record.
Sure, thank you. I'm PJ Hornick with Southport Financial Real Estate, the applicant from 5403 West Gray Street, Tampa, Florida.
Okay, so before I ask the mayor and council if there are any questions, you do have, just want to make notice that you do have the rendering on your attachment. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to review that, but while they're doing that, do you have any comments or anything you'd like to state to the mayor and council tonight?
Sure. Mr. Anderson kind of covered the basics of the concept and where we've been, but just to reiterate, we're seeking development plan approval at this point. Back in May, we successfully sought the PRD zoning approval, which essentially confirmed the basic concept there for the 6 acres, to remind you, located just north of the Woody Fight Senior Center on the west side of Doherty Lane. We have 119 1- and 2-bedroom units in a single 3-story elevator-served building. And from there, the development plan that we've submitted essentially provides a color elevation of the building, what they'll look like, specifies the exterior materials, which is brick and cementuous siding, and then also provides a more detailed site plan specifying some of the amenities that we've previously discussed. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on what we submitted.
Okay, so I will start with our Madam Mayor.
Thank you
Any
so
questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Vice Chair. Mr. Hornick, thank you for coming in, and I do recall you and your company coming in last May, or this previous May. I did want you to just familiarize me with the amenities, and if your development connected to the Woody Fight Center.
Sure. So in terms of the connection, our proposal is to have a pedestrian path out to the public sidewalk, and then from the public sidewalk up through to the Woody Fight Senior Center. So as it currently stands, that sidewalk would have to be walked all the way around to Doris Road, but we're proposing a connection from the sidewalk. So you would have walkability between there, which I believe is less than a quarter mile, so a 5-minute walk. In terms of the amenities for the property, we've got on the interior, we have a business center and library, a social meeting room, an interior gym, and on the exterior, we have a community garden, a picnic pavilion, a playground for residents, guests, and again, the pedestrian walk path.
Okay, that's what I thought I was remembering. I just wanted to make certain that you were the development that connected to the Woody Fight Center. So thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilwoman Miller?
Thank you. Looking over this, I can't tell for sure. Do these units have balconies?
We do propose balconies.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. That is my only question. Well, hold on. Do they all have balconies, or is it just some of them?
All of them will. The ground floor, I believe, will be a patio, not a balcony, but all units are facing the exterior. So it's an L-shaped building. All units will have an exterior frontage, so it can have a balcony.
Okay, thank you for that. That's all at this time.
Thank you, Councilwoman Miller. Councilman Watts?
I don't really have anything. I guess, I can't remember, what's the square footage on each of these units?
The 1-bedrooms are 750 and the 2 are 1,050.
Okay. All right, thank you. And it is age restricted,
55
obviously?
and plus.
Okay, 55, okay. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you Talk a little bit about your design, the outside of the building.
Right, so it was our attempt to blend a traditional and a more modern look. So we've incorporated the brick for about 40% of the exterior with the traditional architectural shingle gable roofs. And then we've incorporated the mansard roof and the flat roof with the panel cement siding and the hardy plank that I think gives it a somewhat more modern look. So I think it looks good. We're obviously open for feedback, but as I understand it, we were meeting all the development code, and it's all 30-year plus exterior materials.
And you said there were balconies?
That is the intent.
I'm sorry?
Yes, that is the intent, to have balconies.
Intent, I don't see them on the drawings, though.
I believe that the drawings here do not depict the balconies, so that is something I'm going to have to circle back with our architect.
And that'll have a major effect on the look, won't it? It'd be nice to see those.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Your parking, is all the parking in the back?
So as the L shape of the building kind of shields the parking, but it is all in one parking field. So as you turn through the driveway, on the inside of the L of the building, all the parking is there. It's parked at one space per bedroom.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, if not, thank you so much for your time, and we'll make a decision on Monday.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, our second item is item number 21-451. Consider a request for approval of a development plan for Beyond Water, Wine, and Spirits for 1.17 acres at 991 Thornton Road, located in Lot 582, District 18, Section 2, Partial 2, for plans dated August 16th, 2021. Application by Parks Huff Esquire, Guyan Hospitality, LLC. Mr. Anderson.
Ryan Anderson, 6701 Church Street. The applicant, Guyan Hospitality, is seeking development of a non-residential project for City of Douglasville, UDO, Section 10.07, for property located at 991 Thornton Road. The proposed development currently depicts a two-story building comprised of brick, ephes, Nashaya siding, and glass. The proposed development will consist of 2,653 square feet of new construction. The development will be situated on a vacant lot totaling 1.1 acres. The subject property is currently zoned GC. The applicant plans to develop a package store. Also, this item is associated with a previous annexation and rezoning, which the applicant successfully sought in May 2021. City staff has reviewed the application and attachments and has determined that the proposed plan meet development requirements of the UDO. Staff recommends approval of this development plan. The applicant is here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. If the applicant can please come forward. Thank you. Good evening. If you'll state your name and address for our record.
Good evening. My name's Joel Larkin. I'm with the firm Sam's Larkin & Huff in Marietta, Georgia. Don't mean to disappoint you. I know you were expecting Parks, who you've seen quite a few times. I'm pleased to be here tonight on behalf of the applicant. This is a project that was before you in May for annexation and rezoning, and at that time we did submit renderings. We thank you for your approval back in May, and we have now submitted a site plan and the architectural renderings for your approval. This is approximately 11,250 square foot building. It's going to be a package store. It's got 41 parking spaces. It sits on the corner of Thornton Road and the ramp for Interstate 20 next to the Burger King. And we're happy to respond to any questions that you have.
Thank you. Actually, your rendering is very nice. Looks
Thank you.
very,
I wish
very
I could
nice.
take credit for drawing it.
It's very huge, too, as well. But I'll start with Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this a two-story space or just simply a high?
It's a one-story space with a mezzanine.
With mezzanine, okay. So there'll be a mezzanine level for shopping, for product as well as the
For product,
store?
yes.
Wow.
Okay.
I believe the building's about 28 feet tall, but then the towers are 4 feet taller, or maybe it's 26.
What was the square footage again, you said?
11,250. I think there was a typo in the report.
I have to say that this is one of the nicer looking package stores that I've ever seen. I appreciate the fact that you seem to have taken the effort to take design seriously and take the siting seriously as well, being that you're going to be right at the entrance ramp for the interstate. I'm glad that you stepped up the game on this a little bit. So,
Thank you.
It's rather important. You did leave off one important detail, though. You left off the name of the business. It doesn't say liquor store. And it'll be interesting because that's going to be, how you put that on there will leave a certain impression. But generally speaking, though, I think the architecture is pretty strong. I think you've got some nice detailing on it. The night rendering, if you keep it lit the way you have it indicated in your night rendering, that'll be very good too, because that's always been an issue that comes up with liquor stores, is the amount of lighting, especially in the parking area and around the stores. So you have a generous amount of lighting, and I would definitely like to see that in the building itself when it's constructed. But yeah, my hat's off to you. I think you've done a good job on the architecture on this one. So thank you.
Thank you, and I'll pass it on to our architect. I'm sure he'll appreciate that.
Thank you. Madam Mayor?
Thank you so much, Ms. Vice Chair. I will have to say, I am pleasantly surprised. I know last May, I had a lot of apprehension about your neighbors, because you're next door to Burger King and restaurants, and on the corner of that busy intersection of Thornton Road and I-20. But it does look nice. And so I thought I was going to have to give my first veto because it narrowly passed. But we do appreciate that you kept your word, because you did say, the applicant said he would make it a very pleasantly aesthetically pleasing. So we appreciate that, the promise. Thank you so much. That's all I have, Ms. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilwoman Miller?
I think I would just somewhat like to echo what Madam Mayor has just said, that I'm very pleasantly surprised and pleased by the renderings on here. I really appreciate the work that's gone into it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
All right, Councilman Watts?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I don't have anything right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. May we be excused?
Yes, you can. All right, we'll make a decision on Monday. Thank you. And the last item tonight is item number 21-463, consider a request for approval of a development plan for storage building for St. Teresa's Catholic Church for 25.90 acres at 4274 Presley Mill Road, located in Lot 79, District 1, Section 5, Partial 2, for plans dated September 7th, 2021, application by Archdiocese of Atlanta. Mr. Anderson.
Ryan Anderson, Zoning Administrator, 6701 Church Street. The applicant, the Archdiocese of Atlanta for St. Teresa's Catholic Church, is seeking development of a non-residential project per City of Douglasville UDO, Section 10.07, for property located at 4274 Presley Mill Road. The proposal currently depicts a proposed storage building for an accessory use to an existing church. The proposed development will consist of a one-story, 4,787 square foot of new construction. The development will be situated on a vacant portion of land on the western side of the lot, totaling 25.90 acres. The church campus is located within an R4 single-family residential district. The applicant proposed building would be 94% brick and 6% metal panels and coping. The applicant use of brick is to match the facade of the existing church. City staff has reviewed the application and attachments and has determined that the proposed plans meet development requirements of the UDO. Staff recommends approval of this development plan. The applicant is here.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. And the applicant, if you'll please come forward. Mr. Chu. If you'll give your name and address for the record, please.
Leslie Chu, 8548 Lake Forest Drive, Douglasville.
Thank you. Actually, I drove the area, and the facade blends right in with the church, and it's very, very nice. But do you have any comments for us at this time?
Just a minor correction. The existing building that's out there is the youth center. That is not the church. The proposed church will be in front of the youth center. So a lot of you are familiar with the large marble statue of Jesus.
Yes.
Jesus runs basically parallel with the proposed side of the church. We've realized that we do not have any storage facility. We build a full gym, a youth center upstairs, and we don't have anywhere to put all the furnishings and liturgical statues and everything that we've already ordered and we're warehousing throughout West Georgia right now. So this building will be located behind the youth center. It will not be seen from Presley Mill Road. You will literally have to drive down to the facility to see it. One of the reasons it's 96% brick is there's going to be a lot of stuff stored in there, and we want to minimize the temptation to literally kick in the wall and go in.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Ms. Vice Chair. It's good to see you, Mr. Chu.
Good to see you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir. I'm used to seeing you for Habitat. Need to come get a hammer and join you in one of those facilities again. But this is exciting. This is an exciting project. It's great that you can bring all of the artifacts and whatever else you have for the church into one facility. It looks beautiful. I'm sure it's going to be nice. So you were saying that the statue of Jesus is out there now. Is it going to stay there? Are you going to?
Yeah, it's going to stay there.
Okay.
And we have not as big because that statue is 16 feet tall, but we have about 32 similar statues made out of marble that we need to put in this new storage facility.
Wow. Now the lighting, I did get a comment from someone in Presley Park, I think, the subdivision. Will is there lighting or something that goes into their subdivision from this youth center now, or? No, that you know of?
There's lights, and that facility is really being used by the complete community as a walking path and trails and whatnot. But yes, there are lights in there. They're street lights. I'm not aware that we've received any complaints, but.
So it isn't intrusive in Presley Park?
Obviously, if somebody's complained,
Well,
it is.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, well, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chu. That's all I had, Ms. Vice Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Councilman Watts.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, as far as the streetlights, I mean, it is like a park, and I want to thank the church for, I mean, it's like having a park across the street. And the good thing about having a statue of Jesus right there is when I give directions to my house, I always tell everybody to go to Jesus and turn right. So, but, you know, this building's going to be down low. It's, the gym is already below grade. You literally have to walk back there to see all of it. But I don't, it's going to be right there in front of the retention pond,
Yes.
between the gym, or not between the gym, but kind of right there beside the gym in front of the retention pond, or is it going to be around on the other side?
It's going to be in the back.
On the back side?
On the back side of the
Okay.
youth building.
Yeah. But as far as lights, I mean, you know, we got to have street lights. I don't, you know, folks are going to complain about street lights and need to move out into the country then, you know. But anyway, thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Yes, sir. And just earlier, Mr. Chu did mention this is not next to the church, and you're correct. It is not next to the church, but it does blend in with the gym that's already there.
Yes.
Yes.
And the brick that we used on the youth facility is a very nice, extremely expensive brick, but our whole philosophy and vision for everything we do on that property, we want it to look nice.
Yes, and it does look nice. Thank you. Councilwoman Miller, do you have any comments, questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Chu. We'll make a decision on Monday.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Mayor Pro Tem Miller, I'm
No.
sorry.
Actually, I don't have any.
Not intentional. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
It looks fine. I think you know, the only thing I would have asked would be, how visible will it be from the neighbors behind the property? Is there any planting between it and the property lines behind?
Yeah, there's a lot of natural foliage, trees, and I would say that property's a good 900 to 1,000 feet away.
Good question.
To the next residential property?
Yes,
Oh,
that
because
backs up
the
to
site
us.
plan says there's a property line, looks like right there.
No, that's not exact, that shows the retention pond property.
Okay, so that's not the edge of the actual property itself, okay. Good point, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We do not have any other items under planning tonight.
Thank you so much,
Yes,
Madam
ma'am.
Vice Chair. You did a wonderful job, and thank you, Mr. Anderson and Mr. Chu. We'll move on to Public Improvement and Beautification Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Nicole Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We do not have any business this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Public Relations Committee, I'll ask the Mayor Pro Tem to please take that committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under the Public Relations Committee at this time.
Thank you, sir. Public Safety Committee, the Vice Chair is Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item tonight, authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Motorola Solutions, Inc. for Douglasville Police Department in-car and body-worn camera systems and associated software and services. And Major Davidson, you take it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good
J.R.
evening.
Davidson, Douglasville Police Department, 2083 Fairburn Road. Our current vendor for both body cameras and dash cameras is a company called WatchGuard. They were recently purchased by Motorola. We're going to be purchasing some new dash cams soon, and Motorola now requires a new master customer agreement, so because they bought WatchGuard, so that's all this is for.
Major Davidson, is this also associated with data retention, or is that something totally separate?
It is. It has software, and it also stores all the data from our cameras. It's all in one system.
All right, so this is just, you know, a company buying another company that we're using?
Yes, and they require a new contract agreement.
Okay. Any questions or comments? I hear consent agenda calling, so I'm going to place this on the consent agenda also. Thank you, Major Davidson.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, that's all I have tonight under public safety.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair and Major Davison. We'll move on to Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Madam Mayor, surprisingly enough, I
it's
have
your
nothing
show.
under Recreation, Culture, and Tourism tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Coach. Technology Committee, chaired by Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business at this time under the Technology Committee.
Thank you, sir. Transportation Committee is chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShawn Burdanley.
Yes, ma'am. We have one item tonight under transportation, and it reads, adopt a resolution adopting the complete street policy as the City of Douglasville guidelines for considering the safe and convenience of all users of the public right-of-way when planning and constructing transportation projects. Ms. McDowell?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. April McCown, 6701 Church Street, Project Manager. So what you have in front of you is a complete streets policy. The policy itself is rather flexible. It is an incentive for the city to follow the policy when planning for transportation-related projects. So anything from bike lanes to safe crossings to roundabouts, everything in between, creating what we call a complete street when we plan projects. We already do this completely and wholeheartedly with every transportation project. We just do not have a policy in place. I will say that the U.S. Department of Transportation has a policy in place for this. Georgia Department of Transportation has a policy for this, and 434 of the 535 cities in the state of Georgia have a policy for this. So it's important for us to set the standard here in Douglasville, have this policy in place. It allows us to apply for additional grants. It also gives us extra points on our green cities or green communities certification as well. So just an incentive. We're already doing it. So if you have questions, I'm here.
Great. Just stepping up to another higher standard, which is great. Do we have any comments from Mayor and Council, anyone?
Very good.
Mayor Pro Tem?
April, is this something that we can apply to existing streets anytime we make improvements, or does it really just apply to new construction?
No, it includes new construction. This includes any type of gap creation that we already have in the community, allowing for that when planning for transportation projects. I know a couple of projects that we currently have in play. This has been a conversation that we've had about the complete streets. That's Dallas Highway. That's a current project. Of course, the Highway 5 transportation and land use study as well, making sure that we're incorporating complete street policy within recommendations.
What about subdivisions? If a private developer's coming in and builds however many houses and they have streets within that, can this be applied to that? Can we require it to be applied to a private subdivision?
I would defer to legal on that. I'm not sure what our bounds are for that as far as development plans and requirements for private streets.
In case there are provisions here that are above and beyond, let's say, our current development.
Certainly.
I guess that would be the nature of the question.
Certainly, yeah.
This set of policies is really aspirational and not binding. So if there are other legally binding guidelines, policies that need to be followed, they would take precedent over this.
So we could, basically, it would be more, we couldn't necessarily, unless we enact a specific ordinance, we can't require a developer to follow these policies. We can only advise and encourage.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question. Are there any other comments? No? Okay, thank you. Then I'd like to place this on the consent agenda, if that's okay with everyone.
I see thumbs up.
All right. Okay, Madam Mayor. No other items under transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We appreciate that, and we appreciate the report, Ms. McCowan. Do we have any other business to come before committees tonight?
Madam Mayor?
Agendas? Yes, sir.
I do want to add one, sort of an appendix to that last item. I would request that maybe staff take a closer look at those requirements in there, or the aspirational requirements, and see if there's anything that we may want to look at changing our development ordinance to incorporate some of the better ideas that might be in there, if that's worthwhile. The rest of the council will indulge that.
Ms. Committee Chair.
So would you like for me to not place this on the consent
No, I
agenda
don't have a
after?
problem with it.
You sure?
It's sort of, it kind of sits, it's a
Sets a
standalone issue, you know,
Right.
as it is. What I'm saying is, if it's, it seems like it's a very good idea, that it may be worth investigating, taking
Absolutely.
it further into, subdivision development and so forth around the city.
Correct. All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Any other business from the elected body? No? Okay, we'll move on then to updates from city staff. Our city attorney, Mr. Joel Dotson.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Staff attorney, Ms. Lynn Woodward.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. Our police department, Major Davison.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I know Chief Sparks went to domestic violence event that he had to attend. Our city manager, Ms. Marcia Hampton.
I just would like to say thanks on behalf of the employees at the city for elected officials taking the recommendation to enhance the benefits and incentive for our employees. I think I speak for all of them to say that they will be very much so appreciative. We understand that as you all have to protect the assets and become fiscally responsible, that making a decision to provide benefits and incentive for employees are always a tough choice, being able to balance what you can afford and what you can provide for your employees. So I do say thank you, and I'm appreciative in advance, because Monday, Ms. Chelsea's in charge, because I'll be out next week at conference.
Thank you so much, city manager. Do we have any staff reports? Well, thank you so much. Now we're coming to item number 20, comments from citizens and delegates. If you have sustained the meeting and you'd like to address myself and council members, we'll ask that you please come forward and give us your name and address for the record at the podium. And you have 5 minutes to speak to us about any business pertaining or potential business pertaining to the city of Douglasville. We have anyone to come forward? No? Okay. I apologize.
No, good. I just have one last thing.
Oh, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to make one last comment. I want to thank Chelsea Jackson and the staff for doing a great job of putting together the presentation on the bond referendum. That was it's going to be a challenge, I think, as selling it to some folks out there, but they did an excellent job putting it together and presenting it in a fair and equitable and factual manner, because I know they're required to all they can do is present the facts, they can't take a side, and so everybody knows that the staff cannot advocate for that, but they did a great job of presenting the information, and as did GMC's representative as well. So thank you for the hard work you put into that. At least the Arbor Station, I can talk about the Arbor Station presentation.
Ditto. And last night, go ahead, Coach.
I'd like to piggyback on what Mayor Pro Tem just said. The staff outnumbered
I know it.
the citizens that came to my bond referendum. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate staff and you know, they're going, you know, they're there past quitting time, and I just appreciate all of them being a part of this process. And I would like to encourage anybody that might be listening to go to these bond referendum meetings. There's several more to come. If you want to find out what's going, how we're doing business and how we're paying for things, you need to come. So when you see that on the ballot in November, you'll know what it's all about. So anybody that's listening out there, try to find a bond referendum information meeting to go to. There's several left. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. It was very good. So any other comments? No, and none from citizens. If we don't have any other business, then this meeting is adjourned.